Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, and we're going to stick to my home county, if you like, of Skåne here in the south. And for this one we're going to revisit a brewery that I only introduced you to for the first time a couple of months back. I think it must have been about 6 months since I did that first review. But for this one we are going to go to Malmö once again, and we're trying a beer from Sweden's best rated brewery on Untappd. So for this one we're going to Nerd Brewing once again, but we're having a taste of the Switch today, which is a New England double IPA coming in at 8% ABV. This brewery of course are very, very well known for their Imperial Stouts, but this is something they've been experimenting with over the last couple of months, so I'm really curious to try something from the opposite end of the spectrum, because the two Imperial Stouts that I had from these guys were both pretty damn good, I have to say. So very much looking forward to this one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Nerd Brewing before. No doubt I will add some more in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Nerd Brewing. So Nerd Brewing are a gypsy brewery based in Malmö here in Skåne in the south of Sweden, and the company was founded by Hannes Gruber and Karin Karlsson back in 2015 when they had their premiere at the Malmö Ale and Whiskey Festival. Both are big beer enthusiasts of course. Hannes comes from a background in software development and takes care of the brewing side of things, while Karin was an entrepreneur, and she'd been a trader as well actually in the IT industry, but she managed the business side of the brewery, although she's not part of the company anymore. But they started out with a very, very modest production, and they've now become the most highly rated brewery on Sweden according to Untappd, which is, you know, a pretty mean feat that actually. It's very, very impressive, especially for a brewery that's only been on the go for about 3 or 4 years, and that's particularly due to their Imperial Stouts that they've been doing, but apparently the IPAs are very, very good as well. But most of their beers are actually brewed at Lilla Ölfabriken and also South Plains Brewing, but more recently they've also been brewing a few things at Chad Beer as well. All of those breweries of course based in the Malmö area, but they've been experimenting a lot with IPAs as I mentioned, but previously they've been focusing on the Imperial Stouts, and they released their original Imperial Stout that they first produced. That was the first beer that they released in Systembolaget, and other than a few festivals in Sweden, it was actually very difficult to get their beers over here for a long time. Now you've got Glassbanken.se selling them as well. But you can get them over in Copenhagen quite readily. I bought this one at Kiosk, and their first release, if I remember correctly, was back in October of 2018, so it's only very recently that they've got their beers available through Systembolaget here in Sweden, which is pretty cool actually. But yeah, a brewery that are very, very highly regarded here in Sweden. It's a bit of a shame that Systembolaget make it so difficult for breweries to kind of get in there, because as I say, such a highly rated brewery, and it's one that you definitely need to check out if you're interested in Swedish beer, or indeed more widely Scandinavian beer as well. I had very positive experiences with these guys in the past, and I'm really, really curious to see how they do things at the other side of the spectrum. As I said, you know, it's mainly Imperial Stouts that they do. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about this brewery just now. If you want to learn a little bit more, you can check out the brewery website in the description below, and of course follow them on Facebook and Untappd and things like that, and that'll keep you up to date with all the latest goings on there. But yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So yeah, as you can see, really nicely presented this one. You know, the artwork on this is very nice, really quite simple to be honest, but a lot of the beer artwork is getting a bit more simple. They have a lot of information on the label part of the beer, if you like. So you can see this one, it's an 8% double New England IPA, hot with Citra, Mosaic and Eldorado. Citra, of course, we know, Mosaic, we know. Eldorado is a New Zealand hop. It gives you a little bit of pineapple and things like that, and you know, some mangoes too. So it should mix very, very nicely with the Citra, and of course the other two American hops, Eldorado from New Zealand, the other two are American. But yeah, I think this one will be a very, very nice beer. So yeah, we can get rid of the brewery notes now, and we can crack open this beer and see how we got on. This one, incidentally, I think is a 44 centilitre, 440 milliliter can. So yeah, let's get it out, and we will get on with the tasting then. So yeah. From what I gather, this is pretty fresh. The guys in Kiosk were telling me that this is a pretty fresh can. So yeah, still a little bit left in the bottom, but we can stick that in a little bit later. So as you can see with this beer, it's poured a lovely, bright, golden yellow colour there. There's a solid finger and a bit, finger and a quarter or something like that, of a frothy, kind of creamy coloured head actually, this one. Although it's like, sort of a very, very slight beige to it. I don't know if you can say that's beige, but yeah, more of a cream coloured head, this one. But it looks very, very nice. If I hold this beer up to the light, definitely a nice kind of mid-level orange there. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, but quite a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head. But, you know, overall it looks very, very nice. The appearance really isn't surprising when you consider that this is a New England double IPA, but a lovely, lovely looking beer. So let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how you go. And if I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see very little in the way of transparency to this one. It is pretty damn hazy, but not as hazy as some that you will come across. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on here. Oh yeah. That's a lovely kind of, that's a lovely hop combination here actually. And one thing is, it's nice to see more breweries using the New Zealand hops. I was introduced to the New Zealand hops when I was in Australia and New Zealand back in 2014, 2015, and I absolutely loved them. So it's nice to see that they're starting to make it a little bit further afield. El Dorado, you know, is a lovely hop. You've got Raka, Riwaka, you know, there's so many different hops down there. Nelson Sauvin, of course, is a very, very well known one. There's so many hop varieties in New Zealand, and it's always cool when you come across some of the European breweries using them. Slovenian hops is another another big up and coming, if you like, or well established for a long time, but up and coming hop country. But yeah, the aromas in this are beautiful. All three of these hops go together really nicely. So you get some of these nice juicy tangerine notes. It's the tangerines for me that are forming the linchpin of this beer. It's got that lovely tangerine orange kind of back to it, and the other fruits are almost coming out a little bit like complexities. You're getting the mango, which is both from the El Dorado and the Citra. There's a little touch of the pineapple note in there, and from what I understand, that is more the El Dorado. I had to read up on the El Dorado again to see what you're supposed to get from these. And it's always a good way to kind of educate yourself, because you don't find too many beers that are using this hop. Citra and Mosaic we know well, but El Dorado is one that you don't come across all that often, in fairness. But yeah, you can definitely pick out a little bit of a pineapple note from that. But to me, the complexities to this beer are really nice. There's a lot of lychee coming out of this one for me, and a lot of kind of, maybe a little touch of lime too, which is quite interesting. Mainly for me, I think it's more the Mosaic that's coming out in this. It's the orangey tangerines, as I mentioned, that are really forming the linchpin of this beer, and the mangoes. I think there's a little bit of an apricot-y note to this beer as well, which is interesting. Now, the hops, it kind of depends on what you mix them with, as to what you get them out. If you put these hops in a black IPA malt base, of course, you can get different fruits and all of these kind of things out of it also. But the aroma to this beer really is very nice. It's a very kind of juicy, tropical fruit. You know, like I say, the tangerine oranges for me are the sort of linchpin of the beer. There's a, you know, there's a sort of mango-y note to it as well. The apricots, pineapples, definitely a bit of pineapple. The pineapple is actually quite obvious when you really get your nose into this beer. But some lychee complexities as well, as I mentioned. I think there's maybe a little touch of gooseberry and lime in here also, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, the fruity side of the hops in this beer are absolutely lovely. On the malty side of things, it actually comes across as really, really smooth. The oats are really jumping out at this one. It's quite a little. I think there's a little touch of a biscuity sweetness to this, and you can tell there's definitely a sort of pale malt base in this. I don't think there's so much wheat in this one, because it's not quite as bready as some of the ones you can come across. There might be a little touch of it in there, but I don't think this is quite as wheaty a New England IPA as some of the ones you're going to come across. There is definitely a little touch of it in there, but it's not overly prominent. Some of them you can really, really smell the wheat. For me, this is more about the oats and they come across nice. There's a little touch of a biscuity note in there. I wonder if they have used a little bit of biscuit malt in here, but the malt base in this beer comes across as being very, very smooth and just a little touch sweet, as I say. Not too much in the way of wheat compared to some in the aroma. I'm sure it will come out in the flavour if it is there right enough. But yeah, really just a nice smooth malt base to this one with a little sweet edge to it. The green side of the hops on this one for me are mainly grassy, and not too much in the way of a floral character, I don't think. I think it's mainly a more kind of grassy note for me that are coming out of the hops here. But yeah, if I had to describe the aroma of this and compare it to other ones, I'd say this is a really tropically fruity, juicy one. It has the juiciness that you'd expect to some of the old New Zealand IPAs that I've had before, and it's got a lovely kind of smoothness to it, if you like, from the malt base. But overall, a very nice smelling beer, this one. So as I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of it before you get stuck in. But we're going to have a taste of this one now. So this one is the Switch. I don't know if they'll do different editions of this one, but it's the Switch New England Double IPA, Citra Mosaic and Eldorado edition. So let's get stuck into this one. A double New England IPA coming in at 8% ABV from the top rated brewery on Untappd here in Sweden. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål. Oh yeah. First thing I'm going to say about this beer, that is ridiculously smooth. That's really, really well done. I'm just going to say straight away, big thumbs up to Nerd Brewing on this one. You know, obviously, you know, Hannes is, you know, he's got some really top quality recipes here. Let's put the rest of this in, to see if we get a little bit more haze to it. You can see the beer. Yeah, that has got just a little touch more hazy there. You do get some of the oats kind of sedimenting their way out of this beer, but yeah, this is very, very good. And let me just kind of put this in perspective for you. The mouthfeel of this, my first impression of this, is that this is a ridiculously smooth beer. So for me, with this one, this is, it really has the mouthfeel that you would expect to some of these beers out of taproom Malmö. You know, this beer, it tastes almost, it has a very similar flavour and things as well, but it has the mouthfeel that you expect of a beer that comes straight out some of these taps at Malmö Taproom. They've got this spot on, lovely. So yeah. So for me then, let's start with the malt base in this. The wheat definitely comes out a little bit more in the malt base. You can feel that lovely wheaty, white bready smoothness, that blankets the middle of your tongue there, and it comes out more. The wheat in this one is almost a little bit sweeter actually. You really can feel it coming out more in the malt base. I don't find it coming out so much in the aroma, which is interesting, but definitely that's forming the baseline of this beer. On top of that, you start to get these lovely creamy oaty notes that you expect from this style right enough. It's almost like a ring just around the middle of your palate, and that just sits on top of that wheaty bready base, and right in the very centre of your palate you've got a nice little touch of a biscuity note. There's maybe even a very, very slight hint of caramel to this beer, which is really interesting. Yeah, I think there's a teeny little bit of caramel in the middle of the palate there, because if you pay attention to this beer, it comes in, you get the lovely bready and oaty creaminess in there, and then the very middle, the very centre of your palate just sweetens up a little bit, and it's got a biscuity note and a little touch of a biscuity note and just a little touch of a slightly sweet caramel in there, and it covers up the booze nicely. And this is one of the things I've always missed a little bit actually about the West Coast IPAs. Is that caramel, that slightly caramel and biscuity malt backbone. This one has a little touch of that in there, and that one really makes it hit the spot for me. But this is a very, very good example of the style. I think this is probably the first New England IPA they've released in cans. I know they had one on draft that was going around Malmö recently, and I do wonder if it's this one, though, although they've just released it in cans. But this is a very, very nice beer. This, it's, you know, it really is, this is up there if we're talking in the context of Swedish beers, this is up there with the likes, you know, the New Sweden IPA, the Fata Morgana from Omnipollo, you know, the Stigberg, the GBG Beer Week. This one is kind of up there. This is a really, really pretty damn good, you know, New England IPA. This, it really is nice. I said the same about the Vapnualna the other day. That's a really, really good Swedish IPA, but this just kind of goes to show you've got so many breweries here now. There's 400 or so little craft breweries in Sweden that are doing some really excellent stuff. It really speaks volumes, and I think it's, you know, there's a culture of home brewing here. It's not surprising that you find breweries like this. But the malt base on this one, I have to say, very, very well executed. I think having a good malt base in a beer is obviously hugely important. Now, for a lot of people it's always about the hops and things, but the malt base, I think if you get that spot on, it really adds a whole other dimension to the beer. So on the hoppy side of things then, the back corners of the palate, I'm picking out there's a little touch of earthiness there. You can get that from the mosaic. I think it's the mosaic that is giving you that. As you come further forward along the sides of the palate, it just smooths out a little bit, that earthiness. It doesn't really travel too far forward, but then you get a slightly nice floral kind of spicy quality to this one. Then round the very front curve of the palate, you've just got a nice lighter grassiness to this beer. I would say actually even on the sides of the tongue it does become a little bit more spicy, and I think this beer in some ways it might be coming from the freshness, but I think it's also coming from the El Dorado a little bit. I remember the El Dorado just having a little touch of spiciness to it, but all the hops in this are pretty high in their alpha acid content. You know, you're talking, I think all of them are at least over like 10-11%. They're somewhere in that kind of region. But the floral bitterness to this one, it's almost just a little touch spicy, and it's very nice. Round the very front curve of the palate, you've got a lighter grassy note to this beer, which is lovely. And then just behind the front curve of the tongue, that's where you get that juicy, that lovely oily bubble where the juicy fruity qualities come out of the beer. Yeah, and for me, it's kind of got everything you would expect from these hops. At the very back of that oil bubble, you can pick out there's a little touch of grapefruit in there, and that's the Citra that can give you that. The Citra can have just a little grapefruit edge to it. If you come a bit further forward from that, you can pick out the nice kind of juicy mango-y flavours on this one. A little bit further forward from that, it evolves into being more of a tangerine orange note, and then just when you get towards the very front, almost tip of your tongue, in the very centre of the tip of your tongue, there's a little bit of blueberry, and I think that comes from the mosaic. I've always found that mosaic gives you this very distinctive, slightly blueberry flavour on the very tip of your tongue. But behind that though, there's a little bit of lime, which will be from the Citra. You can pick out a little bit of lychee, which again will be from the Citra, and that's interesting too. But definitely a kind of pineapple-y underlying too, which is really, really nice. And I'm guessing, as I say, that'll be from the El Dorado most likely. But the way all the fruits go together is very nice. Some of the it does have a little bit of that darker edge to it, which is the kind of grapefruity note coming out of the beer, which is really, really nice. Yeah. It's really, the way that the fruit's balanced is nice, because you have got that darker, I don't know if you can describe it as being a more sour grapefruity flavour. You can just see that slightly darker flavour in there, and then more towards the front of the tongue you start to get the juicy notes, and in the middle you've got the kind of lighter, more floaty, if you like, tropical notes, which is very, very interesting. But I certainly like how all the flavours in this beer go together. It's a really, really well executed New England IPA, this, and it, you know, as I said, it stands up there with the likes of the Vapnualna that I've had recently, the Stigberg beers. I've not tried some of the new ones from Brewing, but I've heard they're very, very good. The New Sweden from Opigårds. You know, these, if you think about these level of IPAs that you can get in Sweden, this one is definitely up there with that. This is really pretty damn good, I have to say. So a big thumbs up to Nerd Brewing for this effort at the New England IPA. I'd love to see them have a go at a West Coast one if they can do the New England IPAs this well. So maybe that's something we'll see from them in the future, but I'll certainly be keeping an eye on what Nerd beers are available at Chios, because this is a brewery that you definitely want to watch. This thing about being the highest rated brewery on Untappd in Sweden, definitely justified, definitely justified actually. So yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, as I said, the thing that's really cool about this one is that it tastes as if it's almost come straight out of the cask actually. Or the keg I should say, not the cask. I was thinking about that there. But yeah, it's got a lovely, lovely smooth mouthfeel to this one. This one is almost bordering on full-bodied actually. Although it's probably more fair to say it's a mid-bodied beer at the top end of the mid-body. Carbonation's very, very smooth. The mouthfeel overall it has a really good balance between creamy and oily. It is very, very creamy, but it just has that little oily edge to it. Nice little touch of hoppy bitterness. I think this one, it could be because it's fresh, but I think this one might be pushing the 40 IBU mark. Maybe 35. I think somewhere 35, 40 IBUs in this beer. The malt base is really, really nice and smooth. A little bit creamy, as I said, but you've got a little balance of sweetness in there, those biscuity and caramelly notes, and you've got a lovely juicy fruitiness to this one. You've got some of the darker flavours, like I said, from the grapefruit, but then it's very well balanced by the other tropical fruits and then the more complex fruits at the front of the tongue too. But, you know, beautiful, beautiful beer, this one. I wouldn't have expected any less from their Brewing. And I do hope to see more from them in this style category. I'd love to see what they would do with a proper West Coast IPA. That's, as I say, this is the West Coast IPAs. I've been missing them, and I think more and more breweries are starting to bring them back actually, which is always very, very welcome. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. The Switch Double New England IPA from their Brewing with Citra, Mosaic and Eldorado. They've done a great job with this beer. If you can get a hold of this one, I highly recommend that you try it because it's up there with the best IPAs that you're going to find in Sweden. So big well done to Hannes at Nerd Brewing once again. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this beer. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Nerd Brewing, and we will definitely return to these guys in the very near future. Have a go at this for yourself and just see what you think. And also, their Imperial Stouts are pretty damn good as well. So hopefully we can return to these guys in the fairly near future. Until then though, slanja just now and I'll catch you later. Slanja, skull, make sure you check out my social media. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below, and thank you again for watching. Cheers, skull.